Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Heartbeats podcast. I'm your host, Ruth Kogan, and I want to thank you all for joining me and my cousins. I'm about to introduce them, all right? On the podcast, all about love, specifically, and most importantly, the love God has for us, as demonstrated in how he brings two people together for marriage and how he is loving upon his singles, okay? So I want you all to meet my cousins, Sam.
That's me.
And Zack.
That's me.
All right, that's him. That's him. And we have a very, very special episode today. This is my first in-person interview.
Woo!
Yeah.
Round of applause.
Yeah, thank you. Round of applause. My applause of two. Thank you.
It's an honor.
Booming. Yeah, the podcast is booming. You're going up in the world.
And you all are podcasters too, or were?
Retired.
Retired.
Formerly retired for me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's off season for me.
It's off season.
So I pulled them in on their off season or their retirement. Thank you for coming back for retirement to really talk about you all.
Yeah.
And
It's
how
my favorite thing to talk about.
Well, clearly. I'm just kidding. How God has shown up in y'all's lives. I want us to first, you all tell us about who you are, and then we'll talk, we got to tell people a little bit about the fam. But Zack, we'll start with you. What should people know about Zack?
Oh boy.
Where do we begin?
I'm 25 years old.
Hey.
I'm the youngest in my family of four kids. Then I don't know. I
Living life.
living life. I'm single, obviously, and I just usually just go with where the day takes me, unless I'm at work. But yeah, just having fun with my friends and family right now, and
That's what's up.
yeah.
And Zack, when he said he's the youngest of four, he's not just the youngest of four. In our family, he's the youngest of the youngest. So there's 26 grandchildren.
27. 27?
27?
26?
Oh,
I don't know. You guys know the number?
oh my gosh.
I don't know the number.
I think it's 27.
It's 20-something, but it's
20-something?
high.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Zack is the youngest of the youngest. Okay, and I'm not the oldest, just to be clear. So I'm in the middle, all right? But Samuel, what should we know about you?
My name's Sam Herwaldt. I'm 26, going on 27, unfortunately. I'm
You
also,
old man. Okay,
yeah,
continue.
I feel like an old man. I'm also the youngest of four. I'm the second youngest of the generation, so Zack and I hold it down. Living in Grand Rapids and not married, so enjoying that stage of life that I'm in before that happens. And yeah, just working, spending time with my nieces. Those are like my two favorite activities at the moment. That's about what I do. So
That's what's up.
yeah.
And before we kind of get into talking about you all specifically, we said just to give you all context, Samuel is the only one that bears the family name at the moment.
No pressure.
In the room. In the room.
No pressure.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, okay, yeah.
Do you want me to explain it?
Go ahead.
Okay. So my brothers and I, there's two brothers.
Yeah.
And well, there's three of us, but there's two others, and we're the last ones that have the last name Herwaldt.
Right.
And my oldest brother has yet to have kids. He's in his mid-30s. And the other oldest brother has only had girls so far. So no pressure, but it seems like I have a lot of things to live up to at this moment. So
you getting old with that 27. You better get on it.
I actually, ironically, have on my dad's side, so like my last name's Cugini. The Cugini family, I'm the only one there is to bear on the Cugini name.
we got this.
Yeah.
Wow, you
We
too.
got
You
this.
got it. You do. I don't bear that responsibility, but there are 8 children from our grandparents, hence where the 26, 27, whatever number it is,
20-something.
grandchildren come from. We won't even start to say the great-grandchildren that are around.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know all the names, okay? But there's 8 of them. My mom is the oldest daughter. Y'all, if you have not heard my parents' episode, Lee and Joella Kogan, they're the very first episode I put out. Go check it out. And then there's 4 girls and 4 boys. So your father is
The youngest boy.
Second
to last.
Uncle Jim.
Uncle Jim.
Shout out to Uncle Jim and Aunt May.
Hi, Dad.
And we're so proud of you. And
I made it.
Your mom
Is the youngest.
The youngest.
The
Yeah.
She's the youngest daughter and the youngest.
So
Hi, Mom.
shout out to Aunt Katie and Uncle Frank. And we also, another shameless plug, Uncle Bob and Aunt Pat, who is one of the other brothers. Uncle Bob is one of the brothers. Their episode closed out season 1, and it is also a must hear. Those were on audio, not available on YouTube. Anyway, enough about that. So we have a wonderful big family, a rich heritage of faith, of love, all kinds of amazing perseverance. Any other words we want to?
No, that was a great word, though.
Perseverance.
It's a great word.
Hardworking. We love food. We love to sing.
Yep.
Especially you two.
On the food part,
Right now?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing here. We're just here to sing.
We're here to
Yeah,
sing.
we're here to sing.
If you get to a Herwaldt gathering, Sam's father, Jim, Uncle Jim, leads the whole ensemble in 3-4 part harmony, singing hymns, singing
We'll sing Happy Birthday if you want to.
Happy Birthday in 4-part harmony.
New York, New York.
New York.
Loves that. Loves him
My
some
gosh,
Frank
we love to
Sinatra.
go to New York,
you.
New York. So it's a real good time. And when I moved to New York, which if you've been following the podcast, you know that's where I started the podcast, was in New York. I was 22, and we were discussing this earlier. You all were much younger.
I think we figured out I was 7
And I was 6.
and you were 6, yeah.
So I didn't really know them. I probably watched y'all, babysat you all. But now
Change our diapers.
change your diapers. Now we're all grown adults.
Getting there.
Yeah, someday.
Someday. And we get to talk as adults. So I am enjoying getting to know you all as adults. So I wanted to just start off by just hearing, this podcast is all about love. And God loves to show his presence, his reality in each of our lives in unique ways. So I don't want to put nobody on the spot. You all can duel it out however you want. But I would love for each of you to share a story or time from your life where God showed up. I'm going to keep it simple like that. Just however you want to define God showing up.
It's a light question.
I could go. I'll go
Please
first.
You got it.
go.
Yeah. So I feel like every stage of my life, there's there's every stage there's stuff like hardships. Everybody goes through hardships and there's hard things to go through in life. And I just feel like God's really shown up in my life through his people. From the beginning of my life to now, I just have always had a really good support system, even you guys in our family, then even just the Christians in my life that are outside of our family and my friends. And that's been every stage of my life. I just feel like I've had a lot of people pouring into me and there for me and that have loved me really well. And I feel blessed in that way. And I feel like that is a huge part of what God has shown up in my life. Yeah.
Can you go ahead, Sam? Were you going to say something?
No, I'm just listening.
Okay.
I'm listening.
You're a good active listener. Is there a moment where that really was yeah, right now this is really what I need, or specific ways in which people were showing up for you in a way that you really needed?
Yeah, I would say this past summer specifically, it was probably the hardest time. Was for sure the hardest time in my life. You guys obviously know that I lost my brother and your guys' cousin. And so that was super hard. But also before that, I right before that, I made the decision I went to school late and was a couple years in, and I decided to drop school. So then I was going through a life change with that, started a new job right after my brother passed. Then even ended a long relationship at the beginning of the summer. And so like all that in a time period, and I moved to a new place, like that was like a lot this summer. And I felt like that's when I've realized more, like that's kind of when I had the realization of like that I've got all these people in my life that love me so well, because like they were there for me through that tough stuff. And yeah, so just like that, and like I've always had that. And so, but even especially this past summer with like how hard all that stuff was combined, like it just kind of made me realize more that like I've got so many people in my life. And like I was so caught up in like that relationship that I had before that ended, that that I was so caught up in that at times that like I kind of missed people that loved me well, and like kind of pushed them to the side at times. And like so like I think that was like a good realization from that too, even like that I needed to be more present in other relationships than just like like someone I want to marry relationship.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm appreciating what you're saying so much, because the older I get, I don't know if it's an age thing though, the more I see the importance of community, of people in your life, because no, I don't, doing it alone.
Yeah.
No, my friends know they're good at checking me. They're good at encouraging and supporting. And what you're talking about with thing after thing after thing, no, you need people in your back. What is it? Backcourt, backside, back.
In your corner.
In your corner. Thank
probably.
you. Thanks.
Yeah.
In your corner.
Backcourt
You need people who are gonna come around you and help you when you're weak.
Yeah.
I do believe, yeah, we're called to be in healthy community. I think a lot of us have people in our lives, but just being around people doesn't equate to necessarily community. Do people even know what's going on with your life? So I'd love to know, Zach, letting people in like that, is that hard for you to do, or is that like, all right, yeah, I'll tell you I'm struggling?
It depends. It depends on like what I'm struggling with and who it is. Like there's I have a handful of people that I'll talk to about anything, but then there's people that I would talk about like a lighter struggle with, like. But yeah, I have a decent amount of people in my life that I feel like I could talk about anything with. But as far as like opening up with like strangers or like people that I don't know very well, like I don't feel comfortable with that. But
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did you develop that community? Like, imagine people don't. It's not everyone has what you have, right? How did you build that, or if it just was great, you're in the right circles, how could people?
Yeah, I think
that.
And I think part of it is just God blessing me with great people in my life. Like my mom is one of my best friends, and she's the best. And like I didn't do anything to deserve that. Like she just happened to be my mom, and
right.
So like there's that. And then just friends that just became friends by chance. Like I think of my friend Caleb, like me and him have gotten like super close the last couple years, which is funny because like he was my brother's age and lived with us for a little while because he was best friends with my brother in like middle school. Then like me and him got close before my brother passed. So then like it was honestly like a random blessing like that we got close. Like it was we got close again because we were close when he lived with us, but then we kind of like went apart. But like because then we were there for each other when my brother passed, because like he obviously loved my brother too. But yeah,
your family at Nick's funeral, I will say, and everyone loves the Cuginis. I mean, it's
family favorites.
Family favorites. They're the youngest, right? Yeah. So you guys are the bit of life of the party, and you all love big. But at Nick's funeral, something that I was very impressed with was I don't think I would have put it in these words, but now that we're talking, was that sense of community. I mean, the Herwaldt family is a community of its own. But to see how many of Nick's friends came around, but also people who had lived with y'all's family.
Yeah, for real.
That your family had made an impact on. I was not just me, because, the Herwaldts, we talk. So me and the cousins and stuff, we were like, wow, just so amazed at the community, but also how your family has fostered that community.
Yeah.
With so many.
Yeah.
So, Sam, anything you want to add on before we talk about you?
I mean, I can just kind of echo what you were saying. Like, this summer brought our family together in a weird way because we're already so tight.
Yeah.
Like, our family as a whole, we're already so tight.
Yeah.
But the beautiful thing about pain is that it's an adhesive. Like, it sticks you together. It's like, me and you grew up together. We've known each other our whole lives, but we've cried together more in the past 6 months than we ever have.
Right.
And it's like the silver lining of it's just one silver lining of it, but it's that you and I got closer.
Yeah.
And
and I have a bunch of relationships like that now that like people I've gotten closer with, and it's a lot of people that Nick was really close with and like loved really well. And I think like one thing that like I've kind of always like strive for is like loving people, and like seeing like all of Nick's friends and people come to like his funeral, and like kind of realizing that like that's what Nick did, is he just loved people. And like and then like my parents, the way they take people in and love people, and like I think I like realized like in this season that like I feel like that's my life mission, is just love everybody. Like and
good luck.
Right.
It's hard.
It is hard. I love people all the time, and they can be frustrating, but you gotta. It's a I feel like that. There's not much more that I could get out of this life than loving people. Like,
what is it? The scripture that there's prophecy. What is it? Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Right?
that sounds right.
Sounds right.
You just rattled that real quick for being unsure. Like
somebody check me, but whatever it was comparing, I think it was faith, hope, and love, but whatever. The greatest of these is love. And just hearing you talk about that, just love people. What's one way though? Like, what are ways that you have seen you and your family love people? 'Cause I think, and I'm mentioning that because I think we can love sometimes in a way that's not healthy. Right? So how have you seen you, your family, Nick, love in a way that really is the way we're intended to love, I guess, in a healthy way?
Yeah, and I think it's a good reminder that it can be unhealthy. Like so you got to put yourself first sometimes. There's like love thy neighbor like yourself. If you're not loving yourself well, you're not going to love your neighbor well. Right. And I can't take credit for that saying. I know. Shout out my good friend Carmen. She she said that. But
there you go.
Right.
But yeah, wait, what was the question again? Like,
what are specific ways your family or you have loved people well?
Yeah, and well, I just think like they're always willing, and like Nick was always willing to, like, if he needed to, he would drop everything for you. Like if my car broke down on the side of the road, like I would have no hesitation to call my parents, call my brother, like or if like there was one night that I was like super sad and just going through it, and I just texted my mom and said, "Can you come pick me up?" And she came and picked me up, and and we talked about life, and it was good. And it's just like stuff like that. And then even like my parents' willingness to open up their home, and like, and I know my brother was the same way. Like if he had friends over, even if like he had a friend that was down on their luck and needed a place to stay, I'm sure like he would have taken them in a heartbeat. And
it's that act of service. Like, you're allowed to bother me.
Yeah.
That's a hard statement to make, because you know, I like being comfortable. You know, I remember not too long ago, all right, I was just settled in, comfortable, I'm warm. You know, Michigan be cold. Okay. These Michigan winters. I was warm, comfortable, I'm relaxing. And then someone needed something. Someone in my family asked me to help them out with something. And it was a quick, 10, 15-minute thing. But it was going to cause me to get off the couch. Okay? I ain't gonna lie, I had my comfy on and all.
Yeah.
You all understand.
The
like
jammies.
the jam. I was good. And I
Yeah.
was like, thank God for texting. Because if they heard my voice, I would have been like, oh. But I was like, yes, sure, great, would love to. And anyway, it was that moment of like, but this is your fam. Yeah. And this is what you do for family is you get up. They are allowed to inconvenience you because, by the way, I've inconvenienced them
Yeah.
a lot, much more so. And this is a way that I can be a blessing. But yeah, that get off your couch.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that I'm like perfect at that because
No, me neither.
I will grumble as I get in my car and
Yeah.
be like, great, gotta deal with
You'll
it.
do it reluctantly, but you'll do
I'll
it.
do it. But yeah.
Yep, that was me. But I think in those moments, God loves to check me. Like, so remember what others have done for you. Go ahead and be a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, like it's when Lazarus dies, like Jesus was away doing his thing, but like he knew he was dying, but he knew that it would be okay. So it wasn't like he needed to drop everything he was doing. Like there's a balance like of that. Like
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, he knew the right time to come. Right. But that was, I just appreciate, Zach, you sharing all of that, and it gives us a glimpse into you, your family, and just the ways that God loves upon you, and then how you're loving upon other people. So thank you. That was powerful. Samuel, you're allowed to take this in any direction you want, but I would love to hear from you. We would love to hear from you. Where, how, what's a season, a time God's shown up in your life?
Yeah. I think probably the most like pivotal chapter of my life that applies to was, I want to say it was like the summer of being 16 or 17. And, my dad, my whole life has been my superhero. But at the same time, he was also I was extremely fearful of him. And not fearful in a way of being scared, but fear in the sense of like, I look up to him.
Yeah.
His challenges to me are really difficult to deal with, and him pushing me to try to be a better person is difficult to deal with. All those things, basically just, daddy issues. Love my dad to death though. But in that summer of being, I forget if it was 16 or 17, my dad basically took the armor off and showed me who he really was, and sat me down as a young man and taught me everything, or not taught me really, but almost just told me his life story, really. And to make peace with the man that I was the most fearful of in my life. It almost brought my armor up, it almost made me feel if I can make peace with him, then there's no one in this world that I can be afraid of. And so and the reason I would apply that to God showing up is just because I think, I won't get into like what it was that he struggled with in his life, but God was very much his escape rope through all his tribulations. So hearing those stories from him, it made him more human to me. You're right. He wasn't just my dad. He was me, but 30 years ahead of me. Like I see so much of who I am in my dad. And I think making peace with him in a complete vulnerable way, now our relationship is like, he's my dad, but I almost want to say like he's one of my closest friends.
Yeah.
And having that it's changed my life in so many ways, but it's changed our relationship in so many ways. You know, and it's done a lot for me. It's done a lot for me. And even moments of like seasons or whatever of being disconnected from the faith. Right. I still have him, and my dad's always been my guiding light. And I think that's the biggest way in my life that God has shown up, giving me my dad. Right. But also like having my dad's life go through trials and tribulations has made me a better person. So it's like, you know, my dad has overcome a lot, and I'm proud of him as a son, but I'm also very grateful that he went through what he went through because I've grown through his pain, you know, as we all do. I don't want that to seem like it's a unique thing, but we all grow through each other's pain. But to have that relationship with my dad is something that I cherish, and you know, I can't really put it into words, like how much it means to me, but I love my mom too. If she's watching, love you, Mom. But I've always loved you. It's different. I've always loved you.
Shout out to Aunt May. You know, as you were sharing, though, it reminded me of my own dad, because, again, similarly, you think about the lens you as a kid are viewing your parents, right? It's like, you know, as you get older, you start to disagree sometimes. You know, you're like,
As you get older? Right. My whole life I disagree.
Well, I mean,
shoot.
When I say older, I just mean like, you start hitting the teen years and you're like, why can't But whatever it is. But as I got to know my parents as people, humans, and learn, oh, wow, you had a whole life before your children. I had the privilege of hearing my dad share his story of how he came to faith in Christ this past summer. I think it was this past summer, or but you know, maybe 6-7 months ago, and details I'd never heard. And similar to you, to hear some of the things that my dad was going through, and then to hear how God rescued him. And my dad said something like, basically like there's no turning back. Like to see what God brought him out of and how he helped him, saved him. My dad's like, I can't not serve God. And I think sometimes growing up in a rich Christian family, we can almost lose sight of that sometimes. Because, you know, we grew up singing the hymns and going to church, Sunday school, youth group, whatever y'all parents had you all do. Sometimes you forget that people go through real stuff that God saves them from, and including ourselves now. But I'm saying as a 5-year-old, it was like, you know, that I'm talking about my experience. So it just was a powerful thing to hear my dad share his life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I wonder for you, you know, as you talked about that, it armored you up. Yeah. That was a powerful statement. I need you to expand on that a little bit more. What do you mean it armored you up? And in what way?
Yeah, well, going back to what I said, like growing up, my dad was my superhero, you know. I wanted to be my dad in every way. And for him to show me the chinks in his armor and that he's not perfect and where he's come from made it more obtainable for me, you know, like made whatever it is that I aspire to be or even just like as a father in the future. He showed me that he isn't perfect and I don't have to be perfect in order to be great or be who I want to be. So him being vulnerable for me showed me that like life's a process and life's a journey. And my dad, although from my perspective is like this idealistic version of what it means to be a father, him pulling back the layers and showing me, well, I wouldn't be like that if I didn't fail in this way. And here's what I learned through that failure. And here's how I just failed yesterday. I still love you though. You know, it's like, it just made our relationship so much more organic. And then as a result, I feel I give myself so much more grace now when I make mistakes. And and that when I make whatever it is, even if it's not a mistake, if it's a season of terrible life decisions, it's like, well, not that I should do this, but it's almost like in my head I go, well, my dad also did something stupid at 26, so I'll be all right. He turned out cool.
Yeah.
But I think it takes being able to be vulnerable. And honestly, if I can fast forward to when I eventually have kids and they're in high school or late high school, as a man, not that obviously women can lead a household and do this as well, but in my experience, as a man, making himself human for his kids, I can just fast forward and envision how difficult that would be. So that's even something that I respect him for as well. But I don't know, in terms of like how it gave me armor, it just, I don't have to strive to be some stoic, perfect version of myself.
Wow.
I can just be myself.
Yeah.
And that's
Wow.
all you can do. Just be happy about yourself. And
Yeah.
nothing can affect you if you're being who you really are. You know what I mean?
That the humanist piece of we're allowed to fail. And actually learn a lot. I mean, come on now. As a teacher moment, we say to our students, you actually learn more from a failure than from always getting it right. So if I'm a math teacher, but if you always getting the answer right, do you always know why you got it right? But if you get it wrong, you learn, why did you get it? What happened here? Let me learn right? So teachers, right, we have this understanding that we try to communicate to our students. Failure is actually a good thing, at least initially. Like, right? We don't want to just keep failing, but like, just go ahead, keep failing. But no, that failure, if you learn something from it, is actually very powerful.
And
tool.
to expand on that, it's also extremely important as you get older to learn how to deal with failure. Being good at failing is a skill.
Yeah.
So it's not even what you learn through an individual failure. It's, are you comfortable messing up? Do you take it easy on yourself when you do mess up? And that's like a skill in itself. And if you're not practicing that like a muscle, if you don't fail until you're older in life, you're not going to know how to deal with it. You're going to have a breakdown. It's good to get on a skateboard and scrape your knee. It's good for you. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. I actually want to go somewhere with that. But Zach, before I could do that, anything you want to add on? You don't have to, but anything you want to...
I guess I just kind of relate. I just think, I feel like I used to think like my parents were so perfect and like,
Yeah.
but I still like turned out as me, and I'm like, no way I can be a parent, because like if I'm not near as good as them, my kids are gonna end up worse than me. Worse than
Look how you ended up.
That was like my thought. That was like my thought process as like I was like probably like 18, around that age, maybe a few years older, like a range in there. Like that was my thought process. Like, I don't think I'd be good enough to be a parent. But then like now that I've like learned that my parents made mistakes even when I was a kid, like growing up, and like that I just didn't even necessarily realize, because I just like thought of them as like superheroes and thought they were so perfect. But yeah, like realizing that they weren't perfect and that they're not perfect, like was like huge.
It's like freeing, right?
Yeah, it's freeing,
alleviating.
Freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually giving space for them to be human as well. And not be like, but you, sir, are supposed to be the one. No, they're just human like you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. So we're going to soon wrap this up, but I want to take us to, you drew on love, right? Like just love people. And you kind of brought out this piece of like the freedom to fail, right? And the power of failure. If we allow it to work, it's good, right? That it, and failing well, that is actually like, I want to run around right now, because my perfectionist tendency is like, I actually have a hard time knowing I mess something up. But I want you all to translate that into a relationship space. You two are technically still single. Okay, no rings on the finger yet. So I want to hear from you all. How do you translate that into a spouse leading towards marriage, right? And again, you're in different spaces with that right now, but you just got out of several months ago, a long relationship. I'm sure you learned some things from that.
Yep.
So thinking about how to love well, how to fail well, how do you translate that into, what does that look like in a relationship?
I think for me, I'm not sure, but I think for this season, I think it's like I'm like it was such a focus of mine before, like having a wife, like someday, like it was such a focus of mine before, like, oh, I just really want to have a wife, and like was like fully convinced I was going to marry this girl. But like obviously that didn't work out, and I feel like in that time like I said, I put other relationships to the side and was so focused on that I like missed out on stuff. And so I think for me, for this season, I'm just enjoying being single and having fun with the people in my life. And if a girl comes along, I think might be one that I like, then I'll probably like slide in there or whatever. But
Slide in.
it's not like I'm like on dating apps or like
Craving it.
Yeah, like craving it. But
Right.
and so I think for this season at least, I think just focusing on loving people in general than compared to loving one person. And that's and I think ultimately like not to like people might watch this that know me and my ex, but like I like realize now that I want like a wife that has the same ideas, like the same like that wants to love other people well, and I think that will be like a better foundation than just craving a relationship to love one person. I think it's like cool to like love that person really well and come alongside that person with loving people. Like I think that's how at least that's changed my view of like what my wife will be in the future if I get married.
My goodness. That was
That's deep.
That is deep because, well, truthfully, that speaks right now to your parents.
Yeah.
Your parents together love people really well. They have a commitment together to open their home. Anyone's welcome. My parents, same thing. They have a joint hospitality mission of just loving people well. So, I mean, what you're saying, that's spot on.
Yeah.
I love that. You can respond to that, Sam, or you can go to your side now.
I mean, the second part of your question was about failure. And just in the context of relationships, I think they're really linked because although it doesn't work like this in our family, typically you do, 4 or 5 relationships, and the beauty and the curse of relationships is that you are doomed to fail until eventually it works out and then you get married. And obviously in some cases that still doesn't mean that your journey's done. And sometimes you have to start over. But in my life, I'll only speak to my experience, like relationships have been the best way for me to learn about failure because I'm someone that like, I'm a really emotional guy. And that coincides with relationships because like I lose myself in relationships speaking in a dating setting.
Yeah.
However, by nature of how the game is set up, you get in a new relationship and you break up, and you get in a new relationship and you break up, boom, 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 and then eventually it works out. And I'm not married yet, so that eventually it works out hasn't happened yet. So I've had multiple experiences of failure, of every single girlfriend I've had so far, I thought I was going to marry. And so that does feel like a failure when that doesn't happen. But that's the beauty of the game, is you have to, in my opinion, you go through a couple of those bad, nasty breakups where you fail, air quotes, and then eventually it works out. However, speaking personally, if I had never experienced those breakups, those failures, then it wouldn't make me appreciate what's coming. Right?
Wait. Uh-oh.
And that's been like what's been challenging for me is our family. At least this is my perspective. You guys correct me if
Go
I'm wrong.
ahead. I'll tell
In
you.
my opinion, my perspective on our family is that everyone married their high school sweetheart. They maybe dated 2 people. They dated the last girl for, 4 or 5 years. They got married, started a family, boom, life is great. And that hasn't been my experience. And sometimes that's kind of made me feel like an outcast. Like, oh, I'm 26. I'm supposed to be married with 34 kids at this point. What am I doing? I need to speed up, But it's like, truthfully, it's stuff like this, like chilling with you, and we're just dudes hanging out. Like we don't have kids running around. But then it's the contrast of 2 years older than me is my brother, and he's got 2 kids already.
Yeah.
And he was married in college.
Yeah.
And it's like made me realize that like everyone's process is different, and that doesn't make my process better, or doesn't make me better at relationships. It's just my journey.
Absolutely.
So that's like a very long-winded answer to the question.
I'm loving it. Everything you're saying. Yeah.
I think failure and relationships are very coincided.
How about failure in a healthy relationship?
I'm still figuring that one out. I don't know about y'all.
I mean, no, it's interesting. I was at with some girlfriends last weekend, and that from my New York life. These are sisters, best friends. We're very tight. And we took time, we call it the hot seat. Like I call this couch the hot seat. We took time on the hot seat to tell each other, give each other constructive feedback.
Oh.
Okay? What are some things you personally got to work on in order to show up in a healthy marriage? And we're a mix of single, married, right? And I was like nervous, like, because they're about to point out my inconsistencies, my failures that I want to hide. I actually found it super life-giving though. Like these people know me. They understand I'm not perfect. Just what you were saying earlier. They understand I'm not perfect. And there's a real freedom in that. And they were calling those things out in love, and they weren't just like, Ruth, you always be no. It was coming from a place
You're
of
snoring too much. Let me tell you. I'm just kidding.
But it was coming from a place of, yeah, girl, we see you. You trying to hide, but we still see these things. And guess what? Like we still love you, and here are ways you can see that differently. Here are ways your failures or your sin, your inconsistencies. Here are different ways for you to think about that. Here are different, a perspective shift, or think about it in this way, right? It was very life-giving. So just to see how when you're in real relationships with people who really love you, you fail. We fail people all the time. Mm-hmm. And therefore, the need to extend love, just love people, grace, forgiveness. So we might fail like this relationship didn't work out, but there's also we fail people, period. And how do we continue to okay, let me get back up, dust myself off, and keep going with the same people. So, what you're talking about is very powerful. Any other thoughts along? Actually, you brought up something that I wasn't gonna go there, but you mentioned the whole the Herwaldt. And this isn't just a Herwaldt thing, but the Herwaldt, like this pressure.
Yeah.
Do you all feel a certain pressure to have your life look a certain way? As men, I want to hear as men.
I think so, but not too much. I think there was even part of me that was a little nervous about going on this podcast. Like there's parts of my life that I wouldn't want necessarily that for our whole family to know, because
Sure.
We've all made mistakes, and I wasn't sure how vulnerable we'd get and stuff, but so even just that thought shows me that that to paint this, that we gotta act like we're perfect, or at least close to it. I do feel like there's a pressure of that a little bit, and
And it's something that like I give our family a lot of grace because it's not their fault. It's
Right.
more like my perception of everybody.
No, that's a good self-awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not their fault. So I'm not pointing fingers, but like my experience with it has been, growing up. It's like I had the life planned out, and I should say like a lot of this is also Midwest culture. It's not
Sure.
necessarily tied
No,
to
that's
our
true.
family.
That's true.
However, it's like, you know, you go to college, and every single one of my siblings got married in college. And my perception, this might not be true, but my perception is that a lot of my cousins did as well. And so I always thought that was going to be that's just how life plays out,
Right.
And then come to find out, you know, I didn't do super well in high school, so I went to community college. And so like
Can't find a wife at community college.
Nah, there's no girls at community college, let me tell you. I'm just kidding. There was. Love community college. But it's just like immediately my life path is different. And so that was kind of a thing. And so I'm already like putting pressure on myself. I thought I was supposed to be at a real college. There's no shame in community college, though. I loved my experience. And then like, yeah, I slowly realized I wasn't going to get married in college.
Yeah.
And now I'm 26 and I'm not married. And,
Right.
and so like, I definitely I should be honest, I definitely feel pressure. And it's especially tough when like you bring a new girlfriend over and the question at family Thanksgiving or family Christmas is like, so when you guys getting engaged? It's like, dude, I just met her yesterday. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean when are we getting engaged?
That's on you for bringing her. But anyway, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
We've been dating for like 6 months. Like, what are we doing? And that's not like a flaw of my family. That's
Absolutely,
almost
yeah.
like the beauty and acceptance
Sure,
of my family. Of
sure.
like, oh, you brought someone. Well, we love you, so they must be cool. So
Yeah.
you guys should get married.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it comes from a loving place. But that does naturally, subconsciously put you in a position of, okay, I'm supposed to get married. I'm supposed to have this figured out. But like giving myself grace of just, I don't know. It's almost like as someone, once again, who's emotional, it's just, I kind of find myself in a state of feeling like I'm not there yet,
Yeah.
you know? And it's
Sure.
like, it perpetuates when I'm surrounded by people who my flawed perception is that all these people have it figured out. And then like I come around and I'm like, yo, what up? And it's just like a different, but
Yeah.
that's okay. You know, it's okay to like have a different life path. And I think I'm slowly accepting that. I'm still figuring it out, still figuring it out. But, you know,
I feel like I can relate to like almost all of that a lot. But I will say like it is nice, like you hear like family members like bugging, like you said like when you brought somebody along, but like I think it's nice that like when I haven't brought somebody along, you hear people like, oh, when you got a girlfriend, you gotta get married yet? Like our family doesn't really do that, at least to me. Like which
No.
is nice that
Yeah.
like because that like every family function, like you hear
Right.
like other families like people being like, you're gonna get married? Yeah.
Right.
got
When you
kids?
giving me
When you
grandkids?
get-
Right.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
hear about that a lot in like culture or like even in movies or whatever, but like that's not really the case with our family, which is nice.
That is true. Now that you're saying that, I have not felt my pressures have come from internal
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
I
from
agree.
perspective. And I appreciate you saying that because that's probably true of a lot of things in life, right? Where we're like, oh, I'm sure those people are like talking about me, but no, they're probably not even thinking about you right
yeah.
now.
Right.
You wonder
But
what they think
they're
of you,
probably-
but
Right.
they don't
They're
think of
like-
you.
They're thinking the same thing you're thinking. What are they thinking?
Right.
about?
Right.
Everyone's too busy thinking about themselves.
Yep.
No one has time.
But I have to say, I think shout out to my brother Scott because he said something to me very. I just really appreciated it at that time. I mean, you all know I got 3 siblings. They all were married between the ages of 21, 22. And so similar to you, Sam, I'm thinking like that's got to be my path, or it's over, right? But and that included my younger brother. You all know Chip. He got 5 kids. And I'm like, God, help, Lord, help me out here, right? Again, you have these perceptions of what your life should look like. And also, I think there's some unintentional communication that can happen sometimes. I'm going to say it from the pulpit, from church, that can be communicated sometimes that there's almost this like holiness club for the marrieds.
Mm.
And then the singles, y'all selfish. Now, by the way, before I get a bunch of married people being like,
I can't
girl,
believe you
no,
said that.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
girl, you don't know. My only point is that, yes, as a single person, I can be selfish. Like, what do I want to eat tonight? I'm not thinking about what does Sam want to eat tonight. I'm going to eat what I want, right? So that automatically, just because of that, there's a selfishness or an independence, right? That you get to enjoy. But I'm getting to what my brother said to me. Scott said to me several years ago, he said, Ruth, I don't want you to think that just because we all got married before you, that means you're not mature enough or ready to be married. That this isn't a function of God up there being like, Ruth needs a lot more refinement than Scott, Becca, and Chip did to get married. He was like, trust me, I don't remember quite what he said, but basically he was like, please. I was not like so mature when I got married. It goes, and that really meant a lot to me.
Beautiful thing.
It was
for
a
him to
very
tell you.
beautiful thing
Wow.
to tell me, just to relieve me of that guilt. Honestly, I felt a certain amount of guilt of like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I need to work some more things out? You know what I mean? But
and I can even feel like I can think that at 25, like
Right.
yes,
that. What
It's
like
easy
yeah, like
to
why
think
aren't
that.
I married yet? Like
what's
what?
wrong?
Yeah.
Was that subconscious for you, or did you know that you felt like that? Or did it take him saying that to you to realize that you had felt like that?
That's a good question. I think I don't remember the exact timeline. I had definitely recognized that, I think, in myself. And also, again, when I say from the pulpit, I don't think these are people's intentional messages they're trying to get across. So some of it is my own perception, my own insecurities, right? But I think I heard a lot. Like, when I got married, I realized how selfish I was. I would hear that phrase a lot. When I got married, I realized how selfish I was. By the way, I don't deny that. I will probably say the same thing. Okay. But I internalize that as like, so you're more holy?
Mm.
So like, you more holy then?
Yeah.
Which translated then to, what am I doing wrong? Right? Like and I think him saying that took this burden off of me of like, this isn't about, you just suck more at life. Like, and it spoke more to what you said, process. Everyone has a different process, a different call in life. And by the way, Paul, Jesus himself were all single. And who could ever point to Jesus and say you were selfish as a single person? And so I really have a strong conviction that as singles, just listening to you talk about, I'm called to love people more. I'm called to embrace my own failures, learn from them, and show up better, and receive that from other people, right? That as single people, we're called to, our lives are still supposed to be submitted to God, and he will interrupt our plans a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
He'll force us to get off of the couch when we got our comfy on and go help somebody. And I could say, I just need some me time. Sorry. No, but I am called to get up and serve. And so I think, to me, hearing my brother tell me that, it spoke to me about God's process. His plan for us maybe wasn't what we thought it should be, but it's better. It's better.
Yeah. So that makes me think of something. You asked earlier, like how God has shown up in your life. And, I don't know if this is directly like God's plan for me, but I've been around, a lot of my friends are in relationships or married. And I feel like what's been a gift for me is that they've been very vulnerable and honest with me about the difficulties of marriage and serious relationships.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surrounded by a bunch of people that put on this facade that I just love being married and my kids are the best and they sleep through every night and they never cry.
Yeah.
It's like, no disrespect to those people, but is there a more annoying person than someone who portrays that they have it all figured out? Like, that's the most annoying person to be around.
Right.
You know?
Okay. Yeah.
But the best people to be around are those that are honest about hard comings. And as someone who's not in a marriage, to hear people, and I should say, I'm not in a marriage and I'm also afraid of getting married for those reasons. But talking to people who are honest about like, yeah, like he poops with the door open. That's the most annoying thing I've ever experienced in my life. It's like, yes, like be human with me. Tell me that marriage is hard because that makes it not seem so unapproachable for me. You know what I'm saying? But you're around people that are just like, marriage is great and it's amazing. And it's like, all right, like go have your picnic in the park. I'll be watching Netflix on the couch. Like I'll be all right. You know?
Well, and also, I do want to hear people who've been in the game a long time love marriage, though. At the same time,
Yeah, for sure.
right? Like I want the honesty, but I also want to hear that it's worth it, right? And that they wouldn't do any different because, there's a real struggle, but it's worth it in the end. Because otherwise, you're right. The fears of entering into something like marriage, it would make most of us crawl back.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And it makes you feel not so alone in those times of being afraid of it, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like having someone be honest with you about how difficult it is or like how even going into marriage they were afraid. It just makes it seem more approachable and more not so unobtainable. Like I have to be perfect.
Right.
And then the person will show up and then we'll get married. It's like it's funny. My brother Jake, I've already referenced him like 7 times. But I reference him a lot because like he's 2 years older than me, but he's always been what you would say is an old soul. Like I swear, dude was born at 35. Like, he's just so mature. And I always adored that about him and loved that. And honestly, I'm jealous of it. But like he gave me this advice a long time ago now, but he said, in his opinion, this is not fact, but it's his opinion, that relationships, and he was speaking about marriage, but relationships are about finding someone whose crap is worth dealing with and who's willing to put up with your crap. And how raw that sentence was to me, it alleviated so much pressure. Because it's like that's so, like you go on Instagram and it's like find someone who fills your cup up, who's perfect. It's like, all right, dude, like what does that really mean?
Yeah.
But it's real. Like his advice to me was so real. It's like everyone, if we're being honest as people, everyone's annoying. So it's all, and that includes us. Like I'm annoying.
Myself, yes.
I'm so annoying.
I get annoyed with my own self. Yeah.
Yeah, you ever do something that annoys yourself?
Right.
Like,
I think there's not anyone that annoys me more than myself.
Right.
For real.
Right. Like,
But it's like, it's so alleviating to be like, all right, find someone who's annoying, but you're willing to deal with.
Yeah.
And then find someone who's willing to give you grace enough to be annoying, but still love you.
Yeah.
And that also is like so disarming because it's like, all right, well, they love me for who I am. So if I do something bad, they still love me because they love me for who I am. And that's outside relationships. That's into cousin relationships.
Oh yeah.
You know, that's
like,
like,
absolutely.
it's coworkers. It's whatever.
Yeah.
You can love people in so many different ways. But him giving me that advice, it was so empowering. It's like, all right, you know, it's not about being perfect. It's just like, you know, find a match, whatever.
Find someone you can deal with their crap with. Yes. That's powerful. And I think this goes for me to the heart of this podcast. And I know we're going to start wrapping it up, but one of the things that I have loved about hearing people's stories, and if you two have not heard Uncle Bob and Aunt Pat's story, that is homework
of course
for you.
I have.
Okay. No, I'm kidding.
I love Uncle Bob and Aunt Pat.
But their story touched me so
to
much because I didn't, and hearing my parents in a new way as well. I want to get all the aunts and uncles, okay? So we'll schedule. But truthfully, because I got to get out some of those pieces of their humanness, the stuff that they went through, the forgiveness that had to take place in those relationships, with their spouse, even before they got married, to hear the struggles that they had. That was so powerful to me. And we keep talking about perception, right? I do realize a lot as an adult, that a lot of my own stuff is my own perception, right? I'm like, no one actually ever said that to you. You perceived people said that to you.
Mm-hmm.
But this is why we got to hear people's stories. This is the heart of this, one of the hearts of this podcast. People are human. And the more you piece out people's stories, the more you sit down. Like, come on, when are we going to ever do this at Thanksgiving? Right?
Birth the mics out at Thanksgiving.
Get the mics out. During our pumpkin pie while the Lions game is on. We're not going to do that. Like, we're going to talk about like, oh, hey, how's work going? Right. Okay.
Good.
Great.
Right.
Oh, let's go sing. Okay. All right. Great. Well, I'll see you next year. Like, we don't take time to really hear people's stories. But the more you do, the more you're like, okay, so we all human.
Yeah.
Oh, you were afraid to get married? Oh, okay. Oh, you and Uncle so-and-so and Aunt so-and-so got into this argument and you all like treated each other bad before and you had to forgive it. Okay. So I'm not so crazy.
Yeah.
Right? I just, we got to do this more because that is, the more you do that, the more you realize, no, we all are just like your dad. Like, take off the masks. We all deal with the same stuff.
Yeah.
In different ways.
Yeah.
And
I feel like our family, I mean, I don't know other families. Like, I know our family, obviously, but like, I feel like our family, like the aunts and uncles, are just so wise and so cool. And I feel like this is now inspiring me to like try and go on that deeper level of conversations with them and know more of their story. Cause like, I feel like I already know they're wise and already know they're really cool, but I don't know that story of them. Like, even I'd listened to my aunt and uncle of your parents of their podcast on this, and like that just like hearing that our podcast, I learned so much about their story. Yeah. And it was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, this speaks to something about Grandpa Fred. You all were super young when he passed. So I know you all didn't know him in the same way I did, but he and Grandma Herwaldt were married for over 50 years. And from my perception, they were basically perfect. I mean, Grandpa would get up at 4 a.m., read his Bible, go to work. This was before us, but by the time I knew Grandpa, he was retired. But that's how growing up, he would get up at 4 a.m., blue collar, worked in the auto, he worked for GM, the auto industry, came home to a whole lot of children and then would help Grandma who stayed home with everybody, help Grandma with, get the dinner on the table, all this stuff. And to me, he and their marriage were just legendary.
Yeah.
And I don't know who said this to me or if it was a convo with me and the cousins, maybe, like Amy and Suzanne or something, but like us being like, but we're observing a 50-year marriage. Like, this is why I'm like, I wish I had this mic before they passed because I would love to have heard, okay, no, that's not how y'all started.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
How did it start? I want to know that. Yeah. And how did you all get? And that was my point about, I want to hear from people who've been in the game a long time that you love being married, because the initial hard work is hard, real hard, but there is payoff in the long run. Staying in it, working through those failures, those mess ups, loving each other over those things, and keeping at it. And so I love that perspective, though. You're observing a 50-year marriage. And if you get married with this idea that we got to look like that
right away,
oh boy.
Yeah. But how much of that is internal as well, though? Because it's like, yes, as a unit, you're supposed to, push each other to be better, whatever, love each other through failures. But it's also important as an individual, even in a relationship setting. It's like, everyone's so good at pointing the finger, but can you be like, nah, here's where I'm messing up in this relationship? Or are you self-aware enough to be like, here's where I'm messing up, not even in the relationship, here's where I'm just messing up as a human being. Yeah. And I'm not saying that because like that's who I am. I'm flawed too, like whatever. But I think that's important as well. Yeah. It's like, man, I'm not perfect. And before I rattle off a list of 10 things you need to fix about yourself, let me work on the 94 things I got to work on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. My goodness. Yeah, we could talk for another hour.
Right.
Because I'm like, wait, all right, let's...
Part two.
We'll do this over dinner, right? But no, this went to places that I didn't even think of, and I'm so thankful for y'all's vulnerability and honesty too. We've never talked like this before, so I've learned so much about you all. Honestly, I just need to say this out loud while the camera be rolling. Like, y'all are amazing men. I just need you to understand that. Like, amazing. There we go. No, but really, like, I'm just so honored to know you, to be family. Truthfully, I think the fear you're even talking about, there's a unhealthy level of fear, and then there's like a godly fear, right? Of like, I don't want to think like, I got this because I'm awesome and here we go. There should be a little amount of like, God help me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need your help.
Yeah, that's real.
And
or else you think you have it all figured out.
Right.
And that's the worst place to be in as a human. Right? Like, when have you ever walked into a problem like, oh, I got this, no worries, and then it goes to according to plan. Like, all right.
Right.
Let me know
God's
when that
like,
works
let
out.
me check you. Okay.
Yeah.
But I want you to hear from me, and I don't have to say this. You all will make amazing husbands someday. Amazing husbands, fathers. You all have, first of all, just kind, gentle hearts. I don't open up like this very often, but you all know I got mobility challenges. Both y'all through that snow and nastiness were like, you need me? You need my arm? You need me to carry anything? That awareness of other people's needs is a true gift. It's a gift to me, but it's a gift to what you bring to the table, just in relationships in general, but also as husbands someday. So I just want to honor you both for taking the hot seat. Okay? Allowing God to have his process with you all. I'm so thankful. You all could, let's be clear, you all could be married right now if you wanted. Okay?
Yeah, probably.
Like fluff that collar, okay? But in all seriousness, if that was the number one goal, right? You could just say to anybody, like, let's at any, at that 22, 21, whatever mark you had of like, I gotta have this. But the point is that submitting to God's process, his plan for your life, I'm just excited to continue to see what he unfolds in your life.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
No, and I mean every word.
You.
Thank
yeah.
you.
You're amazing too.
I received that. I want to wrap up with, y'all know the name of this podcast is Heartbeats. And so at the end of every episode, usually with couples, after they're gone, I share my heartbeat, which is what did I sense God speaking to me as I heard their story. But I'd love for each of us, since we kind of did a roundtable discussion, for each of us to share, what's your heartbeat? As we had this convo, what is your personal takeaway or thing that God emphasized to your heart as we had this convo? And you all decide who goes, but I'll wrap it up at the end.
I go. You got it?
You got it.
All right, I got it.
it.
I think you said something Well, you kind of talked about it a lot, about how your parents love other people and how that's who they are. And that's always been who they are. You know, they're definitely some of the most welcoming people I've ever met. But on the back of that, you said that they're the life of the party. And those two things just triggered in my brain just about how, like, they truly are the life of the party. But they're also the most loving people in the room.
Yeah.
And how much that can make people feel comfortable and how much that brings out of people that, like, your parents are the ones that everyone wants to hang out with at the wedding reception. Like, they're the ones we want to dance with, but they're also the most welcoming people in the world. And like, man, that's such a beautiful combination. And I don't know, I already knew that about them. Like, I love my aunt and uncle, but that's kind of like my takeaway from this. It's just like, not so much that that's how they are, but just like how maybe I can work on that in my own life, you know? Like, not necessarily, I shouldn't strive to be the life of the party, but I should strive to love other people. And as a result of loving other people, I can be the one that in the room that people want to talk to or the one that people want to hang out with because you're just so uplifting. And I don't know. It struck out to me how much those two things go inside with each other.
Yeah. I feel like mine goes off of what you said, and like,
Look at us.
I feel like
Come on,
working
tag
together.
teaming. All right.
I feel like I'm a real overthinker, and I feel probably everyone's an overthinker to a degree, but I feel like especially lately, like, I'm in my own head a lot, overthinking a lot of things, and have that fear of failure, and like, I gotta let myself fail sometimes, and like, just be a little more forgiving of myself, and just
That's real. It's real.
Mine is similar. But see, both what y'all shared spoke to my life right now. Just love people, right? But I think being okay with my failure, like be open and honest about my own failures, and allow the people in your life to fail. Yeah, to be, allow people to just be who they are, and love them anyway, because I want to be loved that way. So allowing myself to fail and allowing people to love me in that, and allowing others to fail and love them in it.
Yeah, and it goes along with loving yourself, which if you're not loving yourself well, you're not loving others well.
It's a good word to end on. Like, pursue, and I think that comes from a healthy relationship. You talked about your father, Uncle Jim. Through all his failures, God was his anchor. Like, you ain't getting out of that mess without God's help. And so a healthy sense of self, a healthy love of self comes from a healthy relationship with God and understanding how he sees you. So, oh my gosh. You all, this was amazing. I love you guys so much. And I look forward to continuing this convo over dinner.
Yeah.
But you all can't join. So, no, but thank you all for joining us on my first in-person interview. Come on now. Come on.
Love that.
Shout out to Jameson, our videographer. He ain't going to show his face, though you could.
Good looking face, though.
Jameson also be editing this podcast. So shout out to Jameson.
Double shout
and tell me name the studio. The studio. Your MC Filmic. Shout out to MC Filmic, who's done an amazing job editing this podcast. If you're listening to this on audio, I'm sorry, go to YouTube.
Yeah, see our faces.
Go to YouTube. Come on
it's
now.
worth seeing our faces, I promise.
It's very beautiful.
You gotta see. Also, well, I'm not gonna say what I was about to say. I'll say it later. Go see this on, because what Jameson has done with the YouTube channel has been. It makes it look so. Yeah, he's done an amazing job with it. So go check it out. Subscribe.
Yes.
Subscribe, like.
Follow on Spotify.
Share.
Follow on iTunes. Follow on Google Play. YouTube Audio, SoundCloud. Wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there. Go find it.
That's right.
And
That's
share
right.
it everywhere.
And share
it.
everywhere.
You know you got Instagram. You know you got Facebook. You might as well post this.
Repost, share, like all the things.
Do
so I pray you all have an amazing day, and I look forward to being back with you all soon for another episode of Heartbeats.
As we listen to a heartbeat. You are my dream.